Hey everyone, Mario Porreca here, and welcome to 10-Minute Mindset. Juliet Herman is back with us today. I cannot wait to bring her back on the line. If you missed yesterday's episode of 10-Minute Mindset, go to 10minutemindset.com and get yourself caught up. We had a fantastic conversation yesterday. Juliet talked about her 3 E's, how she uses those 3 E's, how you can use those 3 E's in your own life to help you evolve and get to the next level. And we talked about a whole litany of things. So go back to 10minutemindset.com, get yourself caught up, and then come back here because we'll be here when you get back. We have a lot more to talk about, and we're going to dive into it in just a few minutes. But before I bring Juliet back on the line, we're going to do our daily GEO method because GEO is a way in which we journal/meditate to set clear outcomes, to put intention and action behind those outcomes, and to do it all from a state of gratitude. And GEO is, of course, GIO. I like to work it back to front, so I always start with the O, and the O is outcome. First and foremost, you have to identify what is that outcome you want to achieve. What is that North Star that you're aiming for? What is that one thing that you want to create in your life? And when you think about your outcome, it really needs to be 2 things. It needs to be clear and it needs to be compelling. When I say clear, I mean specific. So what specifically do you want? And this is the number one thing. When I talk to people about the GEO method, this is the number one thing that we dive into and work on because most people just aren't clear enough and specific enough about what they want. They kind of sort of know what they want, or they kind of sort of have a vague idea about what they want. But when you only have a vague idea about what you want, you'll then take vague actions, you'll get vague results, and it's only a matter of time before you look up and say, why am I here and what am I doing? So try to get clear. And here's the good news. If you've never thought about this before, if you've never thought about what you really want and you've just kind of gone through the motions, it's okay. The most important thing is that you get started. Write something down. Have something clear that you're focused on. Go out and take action on that, and then notice the feedback that happens around you and take that into consideration and allow that to allow your outcome to evolve. To do this, I have what I call an outcome journal. It's a notebook where all I write in are my outcomes. And I have this outcome distilled down to one powerful statement. I write it, read it, and say it first thing every morning just so there's absolutely no confusion between my conscious and unconscious mind of what we're trying to achieve that day. And I call this statement a living, breathing, organic statement because that's exactly what it is. As I take that action and as I go out and do the things that I think will help me attract that outcome into my life, I make those little distinctions. I notice those little things and I take that feedback from the universe. And when I come back to reiterate the outcome tomorrow, I take all of that into consideration and allow it to become even more clear because clarity is power. The clearer we are about what we want, the faster our mind can get us there. And the clearer it is, the more vividly I can visualize what it's going to feel like, what it's going to be like, how I'm going to experience that outcome. And that makes it more compelling to me. And that compelling part is so important because the thought in and of itself has very little creative power. But a thought backed with emotion becomes infinitely powerful. And a thought backed with emotion is what we call a desire. And when we have a strong enough desire, it leads to action. And when I say action, I really mean the I of GEO, which is intention, meaning now that you know what you want and why you want it, what do you intend to do about it? And I always start with that outcome. I always start with that end in mind. And then I craft 3 intentions or 3 action items that I intend to do today that I believe will help me build momentum towards that outcome. And those 3 things are, number 1, what's one thing I can do right now within the hour? Because right now my attention, energy, and focus are squarely on my outcome. I have no outside interference. As soon as I start my day and step foot outside that door, all bets are off. Life happens, things come at us, and it requires our attention. So right now, though, you have your full focus and attention on that outcome. So what's one thing you can do right now, no matter how small it is, to create that feeling of achievement first thing in the morning and to harness that power and build momentum towards that outcome? Number 2, what's one thing I can do within the 24 hours of today so that by the end of today, I've accomplished at least 2 outcome-focused action items? And if you just do those 2 things, but you do them consistently over the course of time, those results will begin to compound and you'll begin to build massive amounts of progress towards your outcome. And finally, the third thing is what's one thing you put a little bit of time, effort, and attention into each day? Maybe it's something you collaborate with others on or something that just takes a little longer to unfold. But what this really does is it keeps that outcome in the back of your unconscious mind at all times so that no matter what you're doing, when an opportunity comes up or something that could be an opportunity comes up, you'll recognize it and you'll take action on it. It's not that some people have more opportunities than others. It's just that some people are clearer on what it is that they want. So they're more able to readily recognize those opportunities, and then they're compelled enough to take action on those opportunities. So the clearer you become and the more you put this into action, the more opportunities you're going to be able to see around you and the more inclined you'll be to act on those and leverage them to build towards your outcomes. And finally, the G and GEO is the X factor in all this. It's the state in which we're in when we do this. And for me, that's gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful states we can be in because when we're in a true state of gratitude, we cannot feel a negative emotion. And the most powerful person is the person who needs nothing. And the person who is truly grateful needs nothing because they're already appreciative for what's already there in the current moment. And so I like to intentionally get into gratitude every single morning. This is where I pull meditation into the mix. And I really get into that state, not just think about it or say it, but really get into that state of gratitude. And the more intentional I am, the more I get into that state intentionally, the more it shows up in other areas of my life. And the more time I spend in gratitude, again, we just talked about it, the more powerful I can become. And And so when I get into this state, I focus on three things. Number one, what's one thing I get to receive every day? What's one thing that's maybe a small thing, maybe something that I tend to overlook because it happens so often, or something that I even maybe just take for granted, but now I can focus on to create massive amounts of gratitude around it, because it is those small things that lead into the big things. When we get really grateful around those small things, when the big things happen, we can get into gratitude even faster and even deeper. Number two, what's one thing I get to give every day? Because it isn't giving that we truly receive, and through contribution that we create true fulfillment. So what's one thing that I get to give to the world that creates fulfillment within me that I can create massive amounts of gratitude around? And finally, what's one thing that I am? Because our identity leads to our actions, which leads to our results. As human beings, our greatest need is to show up and act consistent with who we believe we are. And who we believe we are comes from the things we hear the most. And the things we hear the most comes from our own self-talk. So audit your self-talk, become your own best friend, become your biggest fan, and really condition yourself to show up and take on the identity of the person capable of attracting those outcomes you desire into your life. And if you do this consistently, you will begin to break through those barriers and overcome those obstacles, and you will begin to actively experience those outcomes you desire each and every day. And that's GEO. We do it every single day. Gratitude, intention, outcome. Do it first thing to set your day, and then do it throughout the day when you need to come back and refocus on those outcomes you want to achieve, put intentional action behind them, and do it all from a very powerful, resourceful state of gratitude. And now, it is my honor and privilege to bring back onto the line Juliet Herman. She is a senior level perception and reputation strategist. She improves customer retention by enhancing organizational performance and productivity to create a better experience. Her specialty is in connecting businesses with causes that are in alignment with their brand and core values. And she's also a change agent and communications whisperer. We talked about that yesterday, which is really cool, who facilitates greater communication internally and with all stakeholders. You can find more about her on LinkedIn. So go to LinkedIn and search for Juliet Herman. You'll see her fantastic videos that she posts on a regular basis and all of the things that she's been up to. Juliet, welcome back to 10-Minute Mindset.
Wonderful to be back, Mario. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We had a great conversation yesterday. We talked about the 3 E's and that framework that you use all the time. And, if people follow you on LinkedIn, or when they follow you on LinkedIn, I should say, they'll see more about the 3 E's and the videos and the content that you put out. But now I want to get into something a little more, let's say, personal. Let's talk, and don't get all nervous. Don't get all scared. Let's talk about some of the things you're passionate about.
Sure.
Because I see, as I'm looking through, some of the stuff we've talked about in the past and getting to know you, one of the things, and I'm going to go through this list, and you can tell us a little bit about each one, because then we can kind of get to know you a little more. You love to create masterpieces in the kitchen.
Yes. By the way, that's my communications whisperer coming out there.
Okay. It's all good. Let's whisper. No, don't whisper, because we need to hear you. But what are some of the things you like to make in the kitchen?
Oh my gosh. So I've been cooking. I first started cooking when I was 5. And I remember when I was really little, my mother had the gourmet cookbook, and it was this beautifully bound fake leather, but it looked like leather book with gold embossed letters. And it had the most beautiful pictures in it. And I didn't even know what these terms meant. So I used a dictionary. This is long before the internet existed. And so I would use a dictionary to understand what the terms meant. And I've never had a fear with cooking. It's really interesting. I wish all of life was as easy as cooking for me, because it's not, I didn't care. If something didn't turn out right, I would laugh and just make something else or do it again. And I think that's really analogous to life. So for me, cooking, I'm so passionate about it because, and that's something you and I have in common, Mario, is that cooking is such a great way to just express your creativity. So it's really a matter of taking ingredients that may or may not appear to go together and figure out a way to marry them. And that is so exciting. So it's like sweet and savory and, having really complex flavors. So it's really analogous to just living life for me. So I absolutely love it.
To me, cooking is almost, and tell me if you have the same experience, cooking is almost like a meditative experience for me.
Oh, completely.
Because people think, meditation, one of the things we talk about a lot in 10-Minute Mindset is people, when they tend to think of meditation for whatever reason, they tend to think they have to find like the darkest corner of the darkest room in their home, sit cross-legged on a pillow, really clear your mind of all thought and just be in the void and the darkness, and you spend hours in this state. And yeah, that can be meditation, but cooking a really good meal that you're really focused on and really into and you put your awareness on can also be a meditative experience as well.
Absolutely. And I'm speaking of meditation, so I've been meditating every day for nearly 20 years, so for a long time now. And I love it. It's just when I meditate, it just enables me to tune out the outside and tune into the inside. So you're really just listening, just observing your mind and just letting those thoughts flow. And cooking's the same way, because when I cook mindfully. So there are times when I will literally put on meditative music in the background, and it enables me to be mindful. So when I'm using the knife, what is it that I'm creating? What is the purpose of what I'm creating? How am I cutting it? Do I want to change the shape? Am I making this just for me, or am I making it for other people? And always cook with love. So there's a lot of intention that goes into cooking for me. And I'm actually completely observing, what am I thinking about? When my mind is wandering, how do I bring it back to creating this delicious experience for myself and other people?
Now, you say you've been meditating for 20 years. At this point of your life, how often do you meditate well, not how often. What is the length of time, would you say, on average, that you meditate each day?
It's about 40 to 40 minutes. It's a great way to start the day. I do it first thing in the morning. So sometimes let's say I'll brush my teeth and then I'll jump back. There are different ways to meditate. One is you could sit in a chair and one is lying down. I would caution newcomers, do not do it lying down because you will fall asleep. And contrary to what people say, falling asleep is not meditating. So for me, I find it most comfortable to lie down and to close my eyes and start meditating. So that's about 45 minutes. And I do lots of different forms. There's a passage meditation where I will recite a passage in my head silently, and it gives your mind a way to focus. So that busyness, all of those thoughts, it's something to focus on. And as you are repeating that passage, suddenly, out of nowhere, it's so incredible that you'll start feeling feelings, and other thoughts will come into your mind and bring attention to you, or suddenly you'll start visualizing and work out problems that you may have or challenges you're facing. So that's one way. Sometimes I'll throw in guided meditations where someone that I trust is walking me through a guided meditation. Sometimes I will just meditate on a thought that I have. So I'll set an intention. Let's say that intention today, for instance, was to just have a great podcast. That was truly my intention today. And so when I was meditating, it was all these thoughts around it. What would come up during the podcast? Are there any feelings? And then to think of other things that I needed to do for the day and how I would feel when I went about doing them. Another time, you could just look out the window, you see it snowing, and you could focus on the snow and see where your mind wanders. But the whole goal of meditating, it's not to empty your mind, it's just to allow everything to happen. Because in life is so much easier when we allow it to flow versus resisting it. Because the more you resist life, the more you are going to expand that resistance. So whatever you focus on expands. So if you want to have a good life, then focus on the good. Focus on what you want in life, not what you don't want. Because I think it is so simple to focus on what we don't want. And again, if we're going to focus on what we don't want, we're going to get more of that. So if we're focusing on lack, whether it's lack of money, lack of a job, lack of friends, lack of romance, whatever it is, we're going to get a whole lot more of that. So always focus on what you do want. Focus on being the best version of yourself, and you'll wake up and you will be.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Juliet, for being here yesterday and today, and for sharing that, especially about meditation. One last thing about meditation I just want to mention, and then I'll give you the last word. Something I've caught myself or found myself doing recently is something that I've coined, and this may be a thing, it may not be. It's something I came up with in my head, but it may be out there already because, consciousness is like that. But it's called micro meditations. So I'll, in the middle of a day, if something's feeling overwhelming, or if I have extreme focus on something that I'm really working on, I will plan 3 minutes or so to just step back, take a deep breath, close my eyes, collect myself, and just allow myself to almost reset. And those little micro moments throughout the day really allow me to reset my focus, reset my tempo, focus on the things I really want to achieve, and get back to being the most productive, powerful version of myself. And one of the things, we talked about being able to meditate during cooking, and you could do some micro meditations there. And as I look through your list here of passions that you've shared with me, hiking through the mountains can definitely be a meditative experience. Taking dance breaks throughout the day can definitely be a form of micro meditation as well. So I think that there's a lot of things in there that you can look at that way. And I think micro meditation is something that can really help someone who maybe doesn't meditate regularly yet, but just wants to kind of feel it out and get into it more aggressively over a period of time instead of just diving headfirst in.
There's actually something that I came up with. I call it shower meditation. and anyone can do this. So all you have to do is meditate for 60 seconds. Don't time it, but just think it's very quick. So when you're in the shower, let the water flow over you and just instantly visualize yourself in whatever place is most relaxing for you. I often use Hawaii. So I'm under a waterfall in Hawaii. And that is meditating, because all you're doing at that moment is you're just visualizing that place and feeling what it's like and just observing the thoughts that come through to your head. So everyone has time for 60 seconds a day. And then I would just follow that up with just 2 quotes that I wrote. One is climb the mountains of your mind. So don't let anything ever stop you. And then the other one is dream big and dare to succeed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Juliet. I appreciate you. I want to tell everyone to follow you on LinkedIn. Search for Juliet Herman. You'll find her on LinkedIn. Follow her, engage with her videos. She puts out great content. And Juliet, thanks again. It's been awesome. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks, Mario.
And I want to remind everyone to visit us, 10minutemindset.com, join the Facebook group, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on a brand new 10-Minute Mindset.